Doing well here. It's a snowy day in Washington, D.C., but we are definitely in for some pretty exciting, heated action between the Dallas Deranged and the Florida Harmony. These are two teams going into round two of the playoffs here that have seen some success over the season. And the Florida Harmony, in particular, after a pretty disappointing season overall recently, were able to get a 3-1 win against the Philadelphia Confusion in round one. So they're coming in after their first win of the season, looking to continue their upset streak against the Dallas Deranged.
Yes, this is a very exciting match. I've recently, like, I believe 2 weeks ago, or before playoffs, I have actually casted this exact matchup, and that was an interesting, close game. Went to Game 5, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
And I'm
and
excited.
definitely excited here as well. Now that we're in the playoffs, just about anything can happen. We're glad that you've decided to join us here tonight with a variety of other games going on.
Yeah.
The absolute best place to be right now in this moment.
Let me just mention that the title of the stream is not updated yet. We will get somebody on it right away. As we currently wait for the game to start, what are you expecting from both teams to see?
Well,
go ahead.
I'm not entirely sure what to expect of Florida Harmony. Watching them over the season was something of an exercise in disappointment. They came so close to getting that first win multiple times and just really weren't able to get that one break that would put them over the top. But with their win against the Philadelphia Confusions, by all accounts, a pretty convincing win, 3-1 win. It seems they might have turned a page. They are definitely up against a Dallas Deranged squad, though, that looked pretty strong at different points in the regular season. They had a 3-3 record, but they were in a very competitive division. And considering them to be anything other than the favorites going into this match would be probably wronging them.
Yeah. How do you see this game playing out? What do you think? 3-2? 3-1? It's like, how do you see it ending?
I think 3-1 would be a pretty safe estimate at this point in
To
favor of Dallas.
In favor of Dallas, okay. Dallas
Definitely in
did
favor
show
of
that
Dallas.
they're very strong. They have great teamwork. However, from what I've seen of them, their focus bar needs a lot of work. Where the opposite feels true of the Florida Harmony, where they go into very good focus bar, but they don't work or cover each other very well. So I'm excited to see if they manage to actually cover their weaknesses.
Oh yeah, definitely. Both of these teams, if they improve on their past strengths and improve on their past failings and play to their past strengths, have a shot at winning this game. So definitely should be very interesting to see.
Yes, as we now waiting for the teams to pick all their players and bring them in. What do you see the comps being played? Do you think that we'll see goats, or do you think they'll go with more variety?
Well, my experience with the OWCC, although the meta has shifted a little bit since the last game I casted, was that we very rarely saw traditional goats. Instead, a lot of teams tend to favor either dive or different variants of static compositions. Small Dynasty in particular had a lot of success with those, as did Carolina Cosmic. So we could see something along those lines from the Dallas Deranged. I know that Mode is definitely a pretty strong Reinhardt Winston player and definitely has carried this team a little bit in the past. So definitely would expect to see a bit more than just goats tonight.
Okay. I would love to see a bit more dive with double sniper and possibly something with Ash and Hammond, as I very much feel that they go hand in hand very well together. Where we will be starting on Temple of Anubis. It does appear for the first map. What are the strengths for the defense and the offense you feel for these teams?
Well, Temple of Anubis definitely does favor a number of different things on first point defense. You do occasionally see some Orisa, Junkrat, Roadhog, high ground compositions. Those were definitely more in favor during the season 1 of the Overwatch League, and they've fallen out of favor a little bit recently, but definitely still have potential on point A of Anubis just because you have such an advantageous high ground those setups. On the other hand, you could also see a number of dive variants because you do again have areas for dive to retreat to and sort of regroup. And of course, additionally, you could just see a 3-3 goat style setup from either team, especially on attack. I think it's a little more advantageous. Going into second point, though, you definitely want to have compositions which are able to sustain themselves well on the point. Point B on Anubis is notoriously treacherous for attacking sides. So once you get to point B, I think teams will start to shift a little more towards their tank-heavy goat style setups.
Yeah, as it takes a large amount of sustain to hold that point. The changes to, and I believe the changes in PTR are still the armor and the Reaper are still in the PTR, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah,
so we will not be
the
seeing
Reaper
them today.
changes on PTR might shift the meta a little bit. Reaper definitely is going to get some niche uses out of that. There were some professional PTR pugs that were done the other day, posted on Jane's channel, and I think what we saw with those is right now, even for professional play, goats is still the majority of the meta, but it's not quite as much of a must-play composition right now. And Reaper in particular did see some niche usage on Nepal Village, so that's something that could definitely become a staple of that map again.
Yeah, it does appear that Goats is very strong at any point that you need to stay on the point, and there isn't much high ground that can be exploited or long sightlines that can be exploited. So, like on Junkertown first and second point, Goats is not, and third point actually, Goats is actually very weak because you have either high ground that can be exploited or long sightlines that can be exploited, both of which makes it a lot weaker, and that has been made even weaker now with the armor changes. However, I do think that Reaper, the 50% lifesteal is terrifying. That means that he's more unkillable. But at the end of the day, if you have a D.Va, he is not hitting any shots, and any decent focus fire will kill you through even 150 DPS, 150 healing per second. As we see people literally get blown up inside of Transcendence, which is 300 healing per second.
Yep.
So I very much believe that his healing will help, but Goats is still here to stay just a tad weaker.
Yeah, but I think the biggest nerf to Goats, I mean, the armor nerf obviously hurts. The reduction in the impact of Brigida's Rally definitely hurts. I think Reaper is actually, I mentioned the niche usage on Nepal Village, but outside of that sort of scenario, Reaper definitely still has a lot of trouble closing distance against any sort of composition. And as a result,
he needs to do the whole hide and attack surprise. Hide and pounce.
There's just, without added mobility options for Reaper, he's probably going to stay out of the main part of the meta for a little while. Although, it is still a little early to be making that statement. Regardless, I think the biggest thing that's going to hurt Goats is probably going to be the change to D.Va's Matrix.
Yes, I think that's the biggest change.
Even then, I think it should still stay as at least a major part of the meta for a little while.
Yeah, as we will now be moving into our first map as the game is starting, and we will wait for them to load up. One moment. Let my game kind of load up so we get decent frame rate. And let's see if we can actually adjust this a bit, because the frame rate is kind of low. Sorry about this. Let's change that to, no, that's fine. Let's lower shadow detail. Let's see if that helps us.
Ready for battle.
That won't work.
Well, regardless, we do still have our initial compositions coming out here from both sides. There is still a little time for teams to change off of their different compositions, but on the defensive side, we've got something of an interesting setup here from the Dallas Deranged. Mode is starting on Winston, and this is going to be something of a dive defense. Monkai on Diva, Sundown on Mercy, Aranea on Lucio, and then we're going to have Lucky Owl on Widow, and Mr. Twister on his faithful Junkrat to start us off. So this is somewhat of a hybrid dive defense combined with the DPS you might expect from Marissa Hogg. It'll be interesting to see what happens here.
Yeah. As we're about to go in to the match.
So that's an early trap that catches Bray. The side of Florida Harmony is running a Reinhardt Zarya-based composition. It's not actually that bad of composition at all, but it does struggle to deal with dive in the sense that it doesn't have a
Vax now peeks out and dueling the Widow as the Widow goes up. As the Harmony went through that high ground, dropping on point as the Winston fighting on the top. Vax wins the Widow duel, however their point is already being contested. But two go down for Harmony as a third will follow right after to the mines. There's a Widow shooting down, but it is simply not enough. The Dallas will hold them off for this. What went wrong with that attack?
Well, it was a bit of a split push after that initial Widow pick. Half of the side of Florida Harmony decided to drop on point, but the dive from Dallas Deranged was able to exploit that and get onto Florida's backline without any peel from the tanks being available. Dallas then won that fight on the high ground, dropped back down on the point, and cleaned things up. So definitely well played on their part, a little bit of a mistake from the Florida Harmony.
As Vax now is running away from Winston, as the entire Dallas team is just ignoring the Harmony team on the high ground, saying, we don't care about you, we can just pick your Widow. But Vax retaliates with that pick. A Valkyrie comes in for the res, and Lucy will get a revenge on Vax, kills him down, and Tyre goes to clean up. Harmony will be blocked by the shield beautifully as two tanks are brawling on the point. Only Zarya alive. Genji will join the fight as they get cleaned up by the Dallas.
Yeah, definitely another great initial pick there from Vax, but the fights on point have been anything else for Florida Harmony. Both times we've seen a situation where Dallas is able to just get onto the back line of Florida for free, and as a result, there's just been no peel from the tanks on Florida Harmony. Yeah, again, we see an initial picks from Vax, but Lucky Owl just answers.
Res. Like, they just get free res here, as a Nano Boost will go with a blade, going down, chasing the Widow down, and failing to get her, gets her after the third swing, goes on the Lucio, but the sound barrier is right there. Shatter comes in, gets knocked away, I think, as Dallas is trying to hold on with only two people on point in a 2v2 fight. Mercy will go down. Zarya will as well. Now it's a Genji versus Diva with a Widow supporting the Genji by Vax just shooting down. Winston will be chasing the Widow up from behind. Reinhardt will come in to help as Widow runs away. Goes on point trying to clean up Vax, but reinforcements are in for Dallas. And it's just a Reinhardt on point. He needs help with that. He's being healed up. A res once again uncontested. As Dallas is now back in the driver's seat of this with only 45 seconds remaining. They need to reset. Harmony needs to reset and come back with a better plan. How do you see them winning this?
It's going to be really hard because Dallas didn't use a lot of ultimates there. We did see Florida have pretty much all the tools they needed to get that first point on attack, but they just weren't able to get value out of their big ultimates, and that allowed Dallas to back
comes in, the blade is ready, he's looking for what to do. We are following now Eklo as he's trying to go down. In comes the blade, but finds the Lucio, but the Tyre too, and the Tyre! He doesn't get much, but his team is trying to push forward. The res comes back once again, uncontested, as there's only 3 people on point. Big anti-nade, but Anna will fall down right after, as Dallas will be holding it. Vax coming in with the Hammond, Bray coming in with the Hammond, trying to hold it, will be spinning on point, hoping to spin to win. There's a trap there which will finish him off. In comes the Diva Bomb. hiding from it with the Genji coming right back out to stall. But now there's nobody left on point. Sunder is out, and Dallas with a full, complete hold on the first point. Not even a tick, I believe.
Yeah, definitely a strong showing from Dallas there, but it was helped in part by some pretty poor engages from Florida Harmony. We're going to the next point with just one tick being the necessary capture percentage that Dallas needs to meet. They need one tick again on point A. And given how much dysfunction we saw from the side of Florida Harmony, it should definitely be their point to win.
Yeah. As all they need is probably to play something and just stand on point and survive with nothing else to really contest them. They can just wait for a big ult combo as well.
Yeah, that's the really hard thing about this situation here for the Florida Harmony. They need to be able to at least contest point as they're fighting, which is going to make it really hard for them to play any sort of high ground setup against Dallas, because eventually someone will have to drop to contest point. And if that's anyone other than your tanks, you're basically going to be giving their life up for more time in the game. On the other side of things, like on the first attack run, Dallas had all the time in the world. 3 ticks is enough time that you can give up 1 or 2 and still force your opponent into a scenario where, you know, you can just play high ground without really having to touch point at all.
Yeah,
now Dallas
like
just
Dallas will be running.
win.
Yeah, they'll be running dive with Hammond, with Junkrat and a Widow. They need those picks, or else they won't get much out of it. As we now try to follow the match, that will go once again to the high ground, but we'll lose Lucier along the way. However, Lucky gets a pick off the bat. A Res will get their Lucier right back in there, right back up in a 5v6 advantage. They will try to dive, only Diva gets up, loses her mech, will probably die for that. However, they have people on point. They have to be contested. They are halfway towards winning this map. And there is not much that looks like Harmony can do. They are trying to stall it out. Diva mech loses it. Winston is asleep and woken up as Lucky Owl and Mr. Twister keep shooting, and the point will be taken. Dallas takes the first map.
And that definitely showed the power of Mercy there as well. We saw it a bit on Dallas's defensive side, but on the offense as well, we saw an initial pick from the Florida Harmony, but that just got rezzed up. And an answering pick on the other side, where Florida was playing on its end, really, put them in a situation where they were fighting 5v6 permanently. So both on offense and on defense there, the power of Mercy's res is not to be underestimated.
Yeah, there were several res that I felt that could have been contested but were not, especially the res and the unlucky Owl after he was picked by Vax. That res should have been contested by Vax to not let him do that and simply get that shot, but that didn't come through, and that I feel cost him quite a bit not to have that.
Yeah, it is still the first map though, and Florida Harmony will have at least 2 more attempts to turn things around here against the Dallas Deranged. It was definitely a very dominant map. One thing we did see, the bright spot, if you will, for Florida Harmony, was Eklo's play on Genji. He was able to build his ultimates really, really quickly. And although they didn't always get value, he was definitely outputting constant damage on Genji, and that kept them close in certain fights. It just wasn't quite enough, though, as Dallas was playing quite well.
Our next map is Lijiang Tower, King of the Hill, where you need to hold the point. What do you feel Dallas needs to do to keep their momentum, and what does Harmony need to do to gain their own?
Well, Dallas just needs to keep applying pressure, really, because as long as they are doing that, it looks like Florida is finding ways to fall apart. Lijiang Tower is definitely a map where you can run a lot of poke-based compositions, especially on Gardens. And then you also do have tank options as well that are particularly strong on Night Market and Control Center.
Yes, with Goats being a favorite in Control Center.
Oh, absolutely, and Night Market as well. Definitely in the pro scene. Night Market does allow a few more options as well, though.
Yes,
If
go on.
I guess this is definitely a map where teams can live or die by their flex DPS role as well. A strong Pharah player for either team can definitely turn things around. A strong Genji to a certain degree, although not so much on Control Center and Night Market because of the strength of tanks. Otherwise, outside of Gardens, this is also a very strong map for good Reinhardt players. And again, I'm excited to see what mode can do going up against this Florida Harmony lineup.
Yeah. Do you feel that we'll see any special picks like Hammond or Symmetra for some weird reason on this map?
Actually, yes. Night Market in particular is one of the very few maps right now that plays to Reaper's strengths a bit. And we've seen the Shanghai Staggered throughout the season run a Reaper Doomfist composition Night Market as a
Yeah,
result.
I very much
I
felt
don't
like that was their niche, pick, that kind of composition.
but that's the thing, right? Lijiang Tower does allow for a lot of niche picks. Control Center as well is definitely pretty favored towards Mei, for example. And although it's a bit of a tank-heavy map, with the recent McCree buffs, McCree could definitely come back into the meta on that as well, depending on how things shape up. So
Very
there's
much if you
definitely a
get
lot
them
of
on
room
that
for...
ledge. If you get them on that ledge with a large health pack, you can be a terror to deal with if you have, like, say, goats.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely a map that allows for a lot of creativity in terms of compositions, and I'm excited to see what both of these teams do. And I didn't even mention Garden as well, but Garden is probably the most dive-centric map out of the three. That's something that can be very fun to watch, and with the massive skybox, you also have a lot of room for strong Pharah play, and pretty exciting Pharah duels in general.
Yeah. So, let's see. Do we have any changes currently in the lineups? It does not appear to be any changes right now, right?
No,
No.
so
Oh,
both
wait.
sides...
We have Sayonara in, I believe, from last match. Both
I see.
teams. For the Dallas Fuel. Like, probably.
But yes,
Go on.
both teams are operating with limited subs right now, it is worth noting. Dallas has 2 in the spectator side, Frosty and Juno, whereas Florida Harmony just has 1 in
Frosty and
EPAL 9.
EPAL 9 are the managers. I believe Juno is a side support. Like, subs, I do not believe are allowed to spectate the match in the game. If my rules are correct, if I remember the rules correctly.
Understood.
And it does appear like we are about to go in. The moment we have the confirmations of both teams already, we'll see the moment we go in. I am excited to see possibly a ham to try and counter a goats comp, because I'm pretty sure Dallas has practiced goats quite a bit, and I'm expecting them to come out with a goats, and I'm hoping to see like a Hammond Farah to counter that goats and avoid it.
Now arriving at Lijiang Tower.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see what both of these teams come up with as we go here. First off, onto Lijiang Garden, which is definitely the most open map we have here on Lijiang Tower. So that goats may not come out just yet. On the other side of things, though, this is a map that definitely allows for a lot of exciting DPS play, depending on what each side decides to go with. I'm interested to see Pharah on here. I'd be interested to see Genji as well from both sides, or even a bit of Tracer Sombra play.
Yeah. As we now approach the beginning of the match, as the teams will now be selecting their team comps. So we're starting on the Gardens, as we said, which the bridges are a big thing here, whether you go on the bridge or not. It does appear, though, that we have teams being picked up already, with a dive comp McCree Farah. Well, a dive comp forming up for the Harmony side, and a skirmish comp appearing. No, a dive comp also as well for the Dallas side, with Lucky Owl on Farah, Arena on Moira, Mankai on Diva, Sayonara on McCree, Sundown on Mercy, Mode on Winston.
Yeah, these are very similar comps from both sides. They both have the Pharmercy, they both have the McCree. The only real difference is Aranea playing the Moira, whereas Gregory is on the Ana.
Yeah, as the Phar's already dueling against each other and they get low. Ana is 1 HP, will be finished off by the Phar, who's low on the ground by an uncontested, gets one shot on the enemy Phar, looks for the second one and cannot find it in time.
Mode may have been the only player to go down so far on the side of the Dallas Deranged, but my goodness, he got a lot of value. He was playing inside the opposing bubble as Winston and still pressuring them out. That is a massive amount of space that was accorded to Mode where he probably didn't even deserve it. And the poke damage he got, the initial pick on a Vax, really did turn the fight. So that's fantastic play from Mode, but you really do want to see Florida Harmony clean it up there.
Yeah, I would like to know that Sayonara is almost at the high noon. Or this early in the game will get it, but will die right after. A Res will come out and finally gets punished by Vax. An anti-nade on Mode, and he goes down, and it does look like Harmony will be taking this map, this point, right back at 29%.
So that's a pretty strong and pretty early first fight win here from Florida Harmony. Their dive definitely looked a lot better in that fight. I think they definitely caught Dallas Deranged a little bit flat-footed there. So good turnaround, and now Eklo, Bray, Gregory, and Vax all have their ultimates. Vax using that Deadeye early, nearly netting Lucky Owl, and getting a follow-up kill onto Sundown. That's fantastic play. That's going to stall out Dallas Deranged even more.
Yeah, as now Phar is trying to find a position to maybe barrage, but gets pushed out by the Diva, gets challenged by the enemy Phar, does not have his Mercy at the moment, as he now backs out. 6 ultimates for the Dallas, and 4 going and 5 for the Harmony. This will be an ult battle that will simply see people wiped out. In comes the dive, going in. Justice gets the enemy Phar by Lucky Owl. Mode gets the Vax as he tries to knock people off the map. He fails to do so as High Noon comes in right now. Sayonara looking for a kill, doesn't get much. Diva Bomb comes in, gets shielded instantly, but Mode jumps off the map by accident as the point is somehow flipped for the favor of Dallas beneath this entire fight. However, they are winning this fight, but that was a terrible time to flip it. It looked like Bray was just off it for long enough.
Yeah, he was stunned just off the point by the flashbang from Sayonara, and during that instant, the point flipped over. It's really unfortunate because the side of Florida Harmony could definitely have stalled that point a little bit longer, built that capture percentage up a little more. Now, though, they have at most 2 fights to take things back here.
Yeah, as Lucky Owl is trying to poke them out before they come in. He finds the Pharmacy and he tries to take them out but does not succeed. He's in a perfect position as self-destruct comes in, doesn't get much of him blocked. The shield goes down as the Phars are going right back at each other. No shots are hitting as we now trying to see as the fight goes down, and it does look like finally go down. In comes Barrage from Eklo as I miss it completely. A Res coming to res him right back up, dying from that barrage to kill himself, and it does look like Harmony managed to get the point right back with a stall from Lucky.
Massive turnaround barrage that we saw from Eklo right there. Absolutely single-handedly saving that fight. We saw a bit of a situation there where Bray swapped over onto the Reinhardt. Hopefully, I think they were trying to put a bit more pressure on the point and set themselves up to be able to hold the point against the side of the Dallas Deranged, but they really struggled to get in, and as a result, that Diva Bomb opened things up for Dallas Deranged. However, Dallas got themselves caught in that long corridor, and Eklo was able to turn things around with a really clutch barrage. On the other side, though, Lucky Owl nets 2 kills. Eklo got
instantly gets 2 shots. The enemy Farah. That is amazing precision work there, and they will clean up the Harmony really quickly before you blink and you miss it. That was well coordinated as Harmony now has to come in. A High Noon comes in, gets the enemy far from a distance, simply not wanting to give it a chance, as Mode will finish it off with a push up the map. Dallas taking the first point of Lijiang Tower.
1-0.
Yeah, and definitely a much closer point, but still a win for Dallas. We saw some strong play there from Eklo again on the flex support. but the rest of the team did have a little bit of a hard time finding their proper engages, especially once they swapped over to Reinhardt. I think the idea was to put more pressure on point, but the problem with that was they just didn't commit to it, and it took Eklo's clutch barrage to really bail them out. However, as I previewed, we do already have a Reaper pick here on Night Market. It's Eklo flexing over to Gabriel Reyes, and we do also have
he
Max on
switches
the
to the
Genji.
far.
Okay.
Last
Well,
moment.
definitely it's still a strong composition on this point, but we do also have the first goats of the night.
Oh, he's
Dallas
looking for
Strange
that book.
busting out the
He
metacomp
will
here
not get the
on
angle
Night
for
Market.
it. As Dallas instantly rushes on point, they're trying to get this, trying to get an opening, trying to fighting through a wall. They're Lucio trying to knock them off and away.
Really big play from Sayonara, knocking the Reinhardt off the edge, knocking the Ana with him, and that's just going to be the fight like that. Fantastic play from Sayonara, and they're going to take the point here, Dallas Deranged are.
Do you feel that not rushing to point through that door, knowing the enemy had a Lucio, knowing the enemy is there, was a bad choice?
Oh yeah, you definitely do not want to go coast when the other team has point control with Goats, because they really can pressure you off that point. There are so many environmental kill tools on Goats that just aren't talked about outside of certain settings, and it's really hard to engage onto the composition once it has point control. Big barrage here from behind, from Eklo, catches the entirety of Dallas Deranged sleeping. We do have a big counter shatter from Lucky Owl, but I don't
no
think it's going
damage
to get
to
enough
follow
value.
that.
Yeah, the team already lost 3, so that's going to be an ult that's going to be used without any real value to invest.
They
And
won this fight, they need
similarly,
somebody
Arnea-
onto the point, and they finally get that.
Yeah, but that's going to be a very late coalescence as well from Arnea, so a couple ults there coming out from the side of Dallas Deranged after the fight was over, and I don't know what happened with Sayonara there, but just allowing that Diva mech to be farmed by Zarya is not good at all. Boss Face, as a result, is almost up to his Graviton Surge. That's going to be a big tool to use against the Goats comp this time around, especially with no sustain ults outside of the beat.
And with a tie now coming from Vex, he sends it out. The tie looking for opening. Big sleep, but the sound barrier will counter it right away. Charge and counter charge. In comes a grab. Big grab. And another grab right on top of it. Bomb on top of it will be blocked. Yes! And Big Shatter gets Lucio with that, killing them off. Harmony looking dominant on this point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There were definitely some mistakes there from the side of Dallas Deranged, and Lucky Owl really did bring himself quite low by charging into the heart of the Florida Harmony composition, but when it was necessary, Harmony executed their plays properly, and that grab in particular was massive, pretty much winning the fight single-handedly. We're seeing some swaps now, actually, from the side of the Dallas Deranged, as they're moving on to Zenyatta Goats, but as Zenyatta Goats without
Not
Brigida.
quite good. So going with the Tracer instead. Probably looking to get this Junkrat. However, Eklo is there. He has a barrage. He's looking to use it. He has his opening. There it is! He gets a big barrage, gets 2 kills, almost gets the Reinhardt, as well as a tie will finish off Lucky Owl, and a charge will get mowed.
Sundown has to be careful here. Sundown is caught behind the entirety of the Florida Harmony composition. He may be able to contest point, but he's also very vulnerable if he's not able to make it back to his team. Mode has fallen quite low on the re-entry here. The first pick could be onto him. It is. RNA falls as well to the Bionade, but we do still have members of the Dallas Deranged on point. Munke has fallen quite low, but Lucky Owl did find the air-to-air kill onto Eklo. Lucky Owl trying to get more value here, but hasn't been able to so far. That's 1 direct, 2 directs from Eklo onto Lucky Owl. Sayonara falls as well. Mode is trying to make his way back onto point, but gets charged back. There still is the touch. Arnea falls during coalescence. Sundown trying to get back to point. Does get the touch. It's every single hand on deck from the Dallas Deranged, but it's not going to be enough, and Florida Harmony gets their first map win.
First point.
Stage win.
First point.
Yeah, not map win, but...
As we go to map 3, Florida Harmony showing they are not wanting to give this up. They want this win. They need this map, or else they are way behind.
Yeah, now I do think the Goats composition that Dallas Deranged runs would have an edge into what the Florida Harmony were running there if they just were able to push a bit more consistently and with a bit more teamwork. Didn't quite work out though, and that allowed the side of Florida Harmony to build up to their ults in time to win fights. We're seeing something of a mirror matchup from last time around here as well. We have both of the projectile DPS, the Junkrat and the Pharah from Florida Harmony, and on the other side we have classic Moira Goats from Dallas Deranged.
Yeah. This is all about getting that tire, getting that valley from your AoE as you're trying to survive and burn through the shielding and the armor. But if they're out-sustaining, if they out-tank you, that can be a big problem because it can shield so much. As we see 2 picks already going down for the Dallas, but 2 trade right back, a third going to Dallas. As get pushed, they keep trading as Sayonara is taking people left and right. There's a pharmacy above point, which the Goats comp has a hard time touching, but they managed to take off Gremlin, and Ekla will follow. Ekla will follow right after, as Dallas will take this point.
That's the strength of the Goats composition into static comps. It can just push right through the front line of an opposing Rein Zarya if they don't have enough sustain, if they don't have the Brigida there to stun the Reinhardt on entry. And as a result, you saw an early fight win from Dallas Deranged. Another Fire Strike is able to pick Vax, but Dallas Deranged is going right in.
In comes the grab, there isn't much to follow up. Shatter comes in into the shield. They are cleaning up house. Eklo is considering that barrage and decides against it, knowing that it will not work for him.
Yeah, and really you could even see Dallas Deranged hold the side of the Florida Harmony here at the door, but I think they realized that the Riptire, the Barrage, and everything else that Florida Harmony have are coming online, and they need to play a little more careful around those, because both the Barrage and the Riptire could wipe the side of the Harmony here. So could a Shatter though, and a big anti as well.
Doesn't get much. Justice from above gets blocked and denied, but gets the mech anyway. In comes the Valkyrie to sustain. The Goats is still alive. Coalescence comes in to try and get any picks, tries to take down the Fire. It's out of range, trying to stall now because they lost the fight. Dallas is now on the back foot for the first time on this map, as it will be cleared out and round from the point, and Harmony will take it at 72%.
Yeah, there really just were too many ultimates to work through there from the side of Florida Harmony, and they do have a really big ult bank as well right now, in part because Sundown used the Coalescence towards the end of the fight, and the bomb was used as well. In fact, Bray actually built up another Shatter after the initial one there. That's going to be a Tire Grav combo, but the Grav isn't, the Tire isn't necessary for Monkai. And as a result, I think Dallas Deranged is going to have to back up because they lost their main tank as the first pick of the fight.
As they're now trying to retreat and be safe. This anti-nade is doing work on them. As a grab comes in but a barrage will cover it up to say, no, you are not shooting, you are not meleeing my team. Taking down mode.
There have been some
but
really
we have a
big
back cap
traps
currently. So Moira trying to go around will be picked down. In comes a Shatter. Counter shot after that. Tire comes in, takes down 2, as it's only Monkai alive. Sayonara will fall right after.
Yeah, so Florida Harmony have finally depleted the majority of their ult bank there, but that was a fight Dallas really shouldn't have taken. They were down players the entire time. I do also want to point out how big Vax's traps have been here with the Junkrat, as they've caught Monkai multiple times and resulted in picks. That time though, despite the big anti, Bray falls first.
And the
we do have answering picks from Eklo and Vax, and as a result, Dallas is down again trying to push on to point. This is a terrible situation for them to be in, as Lucky Owl is falling quite low as well. They are able to sustain here though, and we're going to get on a fight on point as capture percentage approaches 90.
In comes a grab, there is no Reinhardt at the moment to cover it. In comes Reinhardt to cover it. Barrage comes in to cover in. Diva Bomb to hold the point. As in comes a counter grab, and there's only a Zarya on Sayonara, but he will lose his mech and his life right after. We going here with Tide. They need to deal with this fire doing damage. They can't, and now it's only 2 people on point for Dallas. Break coming in, Soundbarrier to sustain. In comes the Tire from the right, waiting for the right moment, waiting to strike, waiting for the Soundbarrier to go out and gets 2! And it's only mode on point as he will fall down, and Harmony will take Lijiang Tower to tie us up 1-1 in this series.
Yeah, we just saw Dallas Deranged taking a lot of bad fights there, but there were really big
Play
plays
of
from
the game.
Eklo and Vax, both trapping the opposing Reinhardt and allowing for that pick, that first pick in the fight that was so necessary. Of course, that was a great play there from Sayonara as
Triple
well.
kill.
Definitely one for the highlight reel, but still, Vax and Eklo came up big. They were able to get kills with their ultimates when it mattered most. They weren't throwing it into the beat anymore. They just played that so well. And as a result, we have our first map win here for the Florida Harmony. After a really dominant first map for Dallas Deranged, it's actually paid up going into map 3. So definitely a really big turnaround there for Harmony.
Yeah, as we now will be going into our map 3, which we will know momentarily what it is. What do you feel that Florida did there really well that they didn't do on the first map?
Well, really, I think they were just able to get value out of their poke there. It wasn't necessarily that the goat's composition couldn't work for Dallas Deranged, but the way that Florida Harmony was playing, and with the lack of appropriate defense matrix usage from the side of Dallas Deranged, they were just able to get a lot of ult charge from their Diva. I mean, from their Zarya, from their Pharah, and from their Junkrat. And when you're playing static like that against a goat's composition, it's really those ultimates that are going to be your only big tool to turn around a fight and win against all of that sustain that goats has. So definitely strong play both from the off tank player there and from both DPS.
Yeah, I very much feel, especially when Dallas got 2 picks early on in a fight, the Reinhardt would Mankai would just rush in, high health or low health, hell or high water, and that very much hurt them as they couldn't regroup, heal up, and then go in. The other thing that they had issue with is that they had no Lucio. Like they played goats without a Lucio, which
Yeah, there were some interesting swaps there from the side of Dallas Deranged after the initial fights didn't go well on goats. And you have to wonder if those are really warranted, because on Night Market as well, we saw them play a variant of Goats without Brigida, where they just switched to putting more sustain in, I suppose, in having both the Zenyatta and
yeah,
the Moira. But it really did mean that they could be engaged into more easily. And of course, more sustain means that there's more time and more, capacity for Florida Harmony to build up their big ults off of the Dallas Deranged.
yeah, any damage you don't take is damage that is good for you. Hence why speed is good, because speed does not take does not heal up damage, but prevents you from taking additional damage or allows you to engage faster. So while the sustain very much I feel is not that necessary. That they needed. They had so much sustain, and yet not they one good anti-nade, and there goes a target. Sustain wasn't their issue. Their issue was coordinated pushes, I feel, and moving together, as opposed to having your Reinhardt charging in headstrong.
Yeah, so there were also some mistakes from the side of Dallas Deranged that we saw there, but I think the most notable ones were probably late ult uses in both Night Market and in Control Center. I mean, the most obvious, of course, were the late coalescences, both from Aranea and from Sundown, that really didn't add any value. And there were a number of other ultimates that were used essentially after Dallas had lost 2 or 3 players and was trying to commit into a lost fight.
Okay.
So I think Dallas can really turn things around and maybe get the 2 more wins that they need to advance in playoffs if they just play a little more disciplined, recognize when they should be committing into fights, and of course, recognize when they shouldn't be.
Okay. What do you feel they played well in this, so we're not just bashing them down?
Of course. Yeah, no, they definitely had some strong tank play moments. I mean, obviously, we saw the boop from Sayonara, but they really were controlling space pretty well, especially early on in Night Market with their goods composition. It sort of started to fall apart, and I think the team might have gotten a little flustered once Florida Harmony started winning fights, but they definitely had their moments. And of course, on Garden as well, they definitely exhibited much stronger dives than Florida Harmony. They were able to take space very effectively, and they got a lot of value out of Lucky Owl on the Pharah. So they
Yeah,
definitely had their moments, a
their
lot to
spatial
build off of.
control, even with their DPS, was very strong, and I think they need to focus on that, on controlling properly controlling space rather than just trying to take it greedily to really get another 2 wins in this.
Yeah, so now we're going to be moving on to the next 2 maps, which are going to be Payload and Hybrid. And I think that's going to change things up pretty notably, because unlike a Koth map like Lijiang Tower, there are a lot of different ways that you can approach the payload on both Hybrid and on Payload, of course. So definitely when there was more space to work with, such as on point A of Temple of Anubis, we saw Dallas shine a little bit more than Florida Harmony. And I think things could swing back into their favor now that we're moving on to both Payload and Hybrid.
Okay. I would like to mention that Dallas made a switch from Sayonara to Mr. Twister back in, and I believe that is it as far as changes go, as we will be going into Dorado.
Yes, Dorado is actually a pretty interesting map, and that first point is actually one of the best points in the game for static compositions. So that could actually work in the favor of Florida Harmony based on what we saw on Night Market and on Control Center. On the other side of things, though, there definitely are a lot of options you can play on Dorado. It's a map that does have some strong points for dive, although the first choke can be a little bit hard to get around. Once you get around to third point, though, the map does become very linear. I think third point in general favors goats a lot more than basically most other points in Overwatch in general. So you do have a lot of stylistic choices, but kind of similarly to Nimbani, because the routes get narrowed down on that final point of the map, you do see the meta shift from a diverse meta to a goat-centric meta.
Yeah, as we will be going the moment the game is starting. What do you feel will be Harmony's tactic in here? We saw them.
Well, yeah, so I think it's a lot's going to ride on their defense, because the compositions that they've had success on are compositions that are probably going to work best when you're playing around a particular choke. And the chokes that are hard to get through on Dorado are mostly on first and second point, especially that very first choke on Dorado as you go into the marketplace. So that's where you're going to see Florida Harmony at their strongest. If Dallas Deranged gets through the first 2 points, I think they should definitely be able to cap out on this map.
Yeah, as we go through the first choke here. I feel that Dallas running dive will be their best bet here, as they've shown that their dive is strong, and I don't believe that Florida Harmony can counter it with a goats of their own. So
yeah,
I would imagine that that's what they would want to do.
They've definitely shown a reluctance to play Brigida in general. And I think that really works against them if they're playing against a team like Dallas Deranged that has had success with dive. Because a static composition with Pharah and Junkrat, as we saw in Night Market and Control Center, is really not one that's well equipped to deal with dive, unless the Winston is unfortunate enough to land in a trap. So it's not something that can reliably defend against dive. But what we're seeing here from the Dallas Deranged on defense is interesting as well. They're playing an Ana Lucio composition, but also with Reinhardt and Zarya on the tanks. Those are usually a support pair. That's usually a support pairing that you see with dive, not with static. So it's, again, a bit of a hybrid comp here, and they're running Junkrat and Widow as DPS as well. So this, I believe, was the majority of their comp from point A on Anubis defense.
As we go, starting with Widow battle, which is defended by a Diva, as he's looking now for a shot. Does not get any, but will fall into a trap. Oh my god, that is unfortunate to happen to you.
Yeah, Gremlin falls to 1 health as well, but is able to get the res off. So Vax is back in the game, looking for angles, but Eklo as well has pushed up quite far. We're going to see a rotation here from Dallas Deranged to the other side of the choke. They're actually really hunting for Bray right now. He's fallen quite low. Bossface has gotten purpled as well, and Eklo gets picked off by Lucky Owl.
Mode gets charged down, and gets fire strike right after. Bossface loses his mech, and the push continues. There is no Reinhardt for the defense now, which puts
yeah,
him on
Dallas
the back
Deranged
foot.
is definitely having to give some ground, but they do still have the numbers advantage until the picks come back from the side of Florida Harmony. Those are big kills, though, from Vax and Eklo, both DPS down, and I think as a result, Dallas Deranged is going to have to give
Big
this up.
Shatter gets 2 people, and big anti-nade goes right after. Nano boost on the Reinhardt as Vax is popping off and taking down Mod, as Mankai will fall right after.
Yeah, the nano there, maybe not the most necessary, but they definitely wanted to keep Bray up. He's actually going to go back and switch for the second point, going onto the Winston so they can control high ground more effectively. This seems like a set strategy here from the Florida Harmony as they take high ground control.
Yeah.
On the other side of things, though, Bossface does back up as Mode and RNA have arrived at the front line, and Dallas Deranged is coming back in.
It does seem like they're very well practiced. They always have a Bossface protecting the DPS, peeking this radio sight line, like constantly just not letting him get the shots, even if he were to land them.
Yeah, Mode has fallen quite low here. He shatters the bubble and doesn't get anything, but is still going in with the nano boost. Bossface falls out of mech, and Gregory has fallen to Mode as well. This
In
should
comes
be a
the
hold
tire
here for
right
Dallas
now,
Deranged,
going
but
all the way
it's
around
going to be a
flanking.
tire as well. Mr. Twister may find Vax here. Actually, it looks like he's going to find Bossface on the Baby Diva. The tire's actually going into spawn, and Vax has found himself a little bit caught here, off on the side by the Mega Health pack next to the cliff.
That's probably a place he wants to be, as he can engage on the next fight from a good flanking position, which I will assume he will be taking. And his team is ready to go. Yes, here he goes, as he's going to start moving in, as we now have an Ash from the defense.
Yeah, so that's a bit of an interesting swap here. Bray has already fallen quite low, but there is a bomb coming in from Bossface to clear out enough space to keep Bray alive. The nano boost comes out onto Winston as well, and Mr. Twister has fallen quite low. Bray's putting a lot of pressure on the front line, and Eklo takes advantage of it with a massive barrage. Vax finds the follow-up kills, and the card is going to keep moving for the Florida Harmony.
Yeah, that is some nice kills, some nice ult usage. Now they used 4 ults for that, which puts them at a bit of a disadvantage considering that Vex does not have an offensive ult. But there isn't much from the side of the defense as Vax pops off and takes Sundown again, as Eklo will take down Lucky Owl.
Yeah, these DPS on the side of the Florida Harmony don't look like they belong on a team that went 0-6 during the regular season, but as I say that, we have a bit of a turnaround. Bossface and Bray push a little too far, and despite an answering kill onto Lucky Owl, that grab is going to ensure that Dallas wins the fight. With that said, they gave up the capture, and Vax gets a kill on Monkai. Dallas now looks to have pushed out a little too far.
Yeah, as Vax is simply shooting fish in a barrel, as nobody can go up there to contest them.
Yeah, so this is definitely a situation where Dallas has to get out, and Mr. Twister has been caught now. He's well within range of Bray, and he's out of nades. That's going to mean that Vax picks him off midair, and Mode now has pushed up too far because of the lack of the Junkrat. This is turning into a bit of a snowball here. As we keep going, Florida gets more and more picks. Lucky Owl falls now, and
Eklo
Dallas just
is
needs
so
to get out
precise in that
and accept that
far.
the fight is lost. Because this card is moving up halfway through point C, and there's a time bank of more than 3 minutes for the Florida Harmony. Okay, finally they have a concentrated push coming out here. Mode has taken control of the card.
Eklo's
He has
looking
been
for a
purple.
barrage.
Yeah. And the Diva is actually nowhere to be seen. That bomb's coming
Oh,
out behind.
snipes Lucky Owl.
That bomb comes out behind the side of the Dallas Deranged, and now they're a little bit split. Bray is nanoed, and he's going to go into the front line here. Both tanks are antied, and that means they're going to have to give up ground. Vax finds another kill onto Mr. Twister. Mode shatters Bray's shield, gets nothing. The Diva mech is gone. Aranea falling quite low. Lucky Owl does get an answering pick onto Gremlin, and that's going to mean the Fire can't sustain quite as well. But it's just a stagger fight now for Dallas.
Yeah,
Aranea
Coalescence comes
to the
out
point.
with a tire as they're moving in. The
Tire
tire
needs to
almost
be
gets
big,
sniped
and it
out,
finds
gets
Gregory.
the
There
Anna,
are
but
no
Eklo
supports
finds
left.
her from melee. Lucky Owl barrages the point, stops anybody from approaching it. But there is still Mankai on the Diva. He's still trying to sustain underneath all this damage. A Valkyrie comes in, which will ensure they cap this point. As Harmony takes 3 points with time in the bank.
Score.
So that was a pretty massive snowball
Where-
there, and it really felt like Dallas Deranged, especially on those last 2 points.
Where was Eklo
Wasn't-
on the first game? And the first and second game, like he's sniping people from a distance. He melee killed a McCree. As Farah.
Eklo was there the first game, believe me.
Yes,
Eklo
I
was
know, but-
dishing out a lot of damage, but the rest of his team wasn't quite there. What's changed for Florida Harmony is that the rest of the team has shown up to play.
Yeah, and suddenly he just popping off, sniping people with the far left and right. And it's just amazing to see as under the barrage of the Widow and Farah, Dallas did not have an answer.
No, they did not, and it's going to be a tough task to match that attack run there. So it'll be interesting to see what both sides come up with. Eklo is actually leaving spawn on the Reaper, and that's an interesting pick. Vax, of course, on his faithful Widow again, and we are going to see a Reinhardt Diva tank line here with Ana and Zen on supports. This is actually pretty similar to what they ran, again with a different tank line, but similar to what they ran on Anubis defense on point A. So they're running the Ana and Zen. The biggest problem they had was that the dive composition from Dallas Deranged was able to get in on the backline more or less for free and deal damage to the supports, therefore ensuring they won the fight, and that could happen again.
Yeah,
So Florida Harmony has to be quite careful here.
Yeah, Eklo switched back to the Junkrat looking for now. Mr. Twister looking for a snipe. The counter winner looking to win the fight with a Tracer harassing them from all sides. Takes a grenade to the face as the Lucia is slowly pushing the point. Reinhardt will be
Bray's
dropped
isolated
down.
here.
A big anti-nade and the mech is lost already. But the fight continues on. It does appear that Harmony is getting it as they get the enemy mech with their Tracer, but I don't see them continuing this push. They need to retreat and regroup. But Lucky Owl simply does not believe me and wants to carry this as Mr. Twister will take his opponent with a melee. And a big pulsum does not get much. A shatter does not seem to get much as it's blocked by a shield. Lucky Owl getting another one. What is this guy doing? He's simply messing in the background of Harmony, cleaning up house.
Yeah, Lucky Owl has put on his carry pants today. He's definitely putting in a lot of work here, although he does fall quite low now as a result of that headshot from Vax, or body shot rather. Gregory has fallen quite low here in the back, and Bray does kill his counterpart in mode. So we do have, again, a pretty even fight here in terms of numbers. That Reinhardt is a big advantage though, as Vax finds another kill, and Eklo gets 2 with the tire. Vax knocks Munkai out of mech, and that should finally be a hold for the Florida Harmony.
Yeah, as Vax was simply going uncontested on this high ground over here as he finally gets Lucky Owl taking him out, but not before he takes out Gremlin.
Yeah, so Lucky Owl has definitely been getting a lot of value on this Tracer, and Mr. Twister finally finds an answering pick now. So this is a 5v4. Mode goes in, knowing he has the Primal, finds a kill onto Boss Face.
Going for a second, gets a second kill on the Ana. Trying.
Do I see 3? Bray is falling quite low. The Primal may get him. Monk Tai steals the kill, but that was all of the work done by Mode. Fantastic turnaround there, mostly on the back of Dallas Deranged's Winston player.
Yeah,
And he's going for another one onto Eklo. Does catch him.
Yeah, he does get booped up and served up for Vax with that headshot.
Yes, and I think part of the reason that took place was you saw another running theme from this game take place. The trap there actually caught Monkai, and that allowed that caused Mode to stray a little too far out of the defensive matrix, and as a result get picked by the Widow. Speaking of Widow picks, Mr. Twister has found his counterpart, and Gremlin is falling quite low. Bray is nanoed in the backline and does catch Sundown, so it is a 4v4. Mode has gone in to contest Bray and actually falls as a result. That nanoed Reinhardt basically taking on the entirety of the backline. But Lucky Owl catches him going a little too far and actually lands the kill onto Bray with the pulse
still on
bomb.
the high ground, still fighting for this, but will lose finally to Vax.
Yeah, Eklo nearly catches Lucky Owl there as well with the flashbang, but this is going to be a bit of a hold here from the side of the Florida Harmony. That's a pretty ballsy res there from Sundown. And Sundown actually does get the revival onto Mr. Twister, but Aranea falls as a result of Boss Face's bomb. The bomb does come out from the other side to gain space, doesn't catch anything. Now, Bray goes in, lands a pin onto Monkai, and is dealing a lot of damage to Mode. This, again, is a case where I think we saw a bit of a disjointed entry from the Dallas Deranged, but they've gotten 2 more picks. Gremlin and Mr. Twister, Gremlin and Vax have fallen.
Like, they're doing a ton of damage, but their team is simply not surviving long enough to capitalize on it.
Yeah, Boss Face is quite low there, so it looks like that may be the next commit. However, with the nade being committed, oh, that's a big shatter from Bray. Catches both of the tanks. A sound barrier is there to keep the tanks alive. Good play there from Aranea. The nano boost has come out, and now Bray's chasing down Boss Face. On the other side of things, Mode has found his first kill with Primal, gets another onto Gregory, and he's going to get Boss Face as well. Mode getting 2 kills and a DMAC. And that's going to allow Dallas Deranged to take the second point as soon as they clean up Bray.
Shatter comes out but does not get much, as we only have a McCree who will not be retreating.
We're seeing a lot of individual pop-offs from Mode here, and that's actually kept Dallas Deranged in the game on their own.
I very much feel it's Mode, Mr. Twister, and Lucky Owl keeping them in the game.
Oh yeah, definitely. And we have seen some cases where Mode has sort of picked the wrong fight, decided to go up against Bray close range, for example, with the nano boost. But the upside of Mode's play has been so big.
And as we say about picking the wrong fight, he goes in and fights what he should not have. He got the res and he didn't need to push his luck there. As Dallas will now, I guess, try and force out ultimates from the side of Harmony, but doesn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was the plan. The Deadeye wasn't necessary there.
Oh, that's a big pulse bomb
onto Gremlin is massive. Mode on the other side falls, though. Monkai is falling quite low, and that nano boost is just going to ensure that this is a hold here for the Florida Harmony.
And Mr. Twister needs to get out or die, as they need to regroup right now for the next push.
So already the Dallas Deranged are going to have less of a time bank than the Florida Harmony. And speaking of banks, that is a pretty massive bank of ultimates there from the side of the Florida Harmony. Eklo finds Lucky Owl with the key flashbang on entry. Yep.
And here comes the Dragons, but they don't seem to find much as the entire team is leaving that area anyway. Diva Bomb comes in. There isn't much defense for everybody. Oh, it was not low enough to get the people in the back.
Yeah. Dallas does decide to commit into that, but there is going to be a bomb onto the back line. Big shatter from Bray.
Barrier
Charge into Sundown, but it isn't going to find any kills right away. Bray pushes too far. Mode on the other side, though, falls. Lucky Owl finds a kill onto Vax. That's 1 DPS and the main tank down for the side of Florida Harmony. So, right now, advantage Dallas Deranged. Is on point without boosters. He's not being punished.
Lucky Owl looking for that pulse bomb. Does not get any value from that. But it does look like Dallas is winning this fight slowly, but maybe Harmony can bring it back. In comes a dragon. That is a big dragon.
Big dragon splits the team. And that tire as well, I think, is a little bit too late to get enough value here. Vax does fall to it, but that's just going to get rezzed right up. And Monkai is almost out of mech as well. Oh my goodness. Again, another very late ult for next to no value from the side of the
Lucky
Dallas
Owl
Deranged.
popping off.
Wow,
Simply
okay.
saying, I will not lose this. I want to win. As he takes down 3 people looking for a port on this Hanzo. Gets the sound barrier, does not have any fear. Now
Dallas
looking for
has
the
no
Reinhardt.
no business being in this fight, but Lucky Owl just keeps carrying them through again and again. The Tracer just finding so much value. He gets the Ana as well. Bossface nearly killed while remeching, but that again, there's just
And
too
nobody
much
can
to do.
contest Lucky Owl here. He simply is running amok in the back line, killing people left and right. Everybody's trying to, but he simply won't die. He ducks, bobs, and weaves it, and kills them all, shoots them in the back of the head, and just takes them down. As Dallas will get this point on the back of Lucky Owl simply cleaning house.
Score.
What a pop-off. That was incredible play from the Tracer. Kudos to Lucky Owl, because that play single-handedly saved the Dallas Deranged and has given them another chance at life. With that said, though, Florida Harmony has a much bigger time bank here.
Yeah. However, from my experience, it doesn't matter. Because 1-1 fight in overtime can mean that you can snowball it into at least to reach the third point.
Oh, absolutely.
not to
And if
take it.
that snowball